We're live from Washington, D.C. for the Republican National Security Debate.
It's a president's most important and daunting responsibility to protect and defend the United States of America. Millions of lives in the hands of one commander-in-chief. It's what legacies are made of.
A date which will live in infamy.
For better,
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And for worse.
That is, not to do anything that would endanger the lives or safety of the hostages.
In war,
just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
And peace. On the day everything changed.
Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
And every day since.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Tonight, from a historic hall in the nation's capital, the Republican candidates address the global challenges ahead. Mitt Romney, who ran an international business and the Olympic Winter Games.
People of America deserve a regular briefing.
Newt Gingrich, the former House Speaker with a PhD in history. Herman Cain.
We will use our military might if we have to.
Business executive who worked for firms with global reach. Ron Paul, a leading anti-war voice in Congress.
We should only go to the war when the people in this country declare the war.
Rick Perry, the governor of the state with the longest stretch of international border.
Iran is waiting in the wings.
Michelle Bachmann, a member of the House Intelligence Committee.
Our nation's future is how well prepared we are to compete.
John Huntsman, the former U.S. ambassador to China. Rick Santorum, who served on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Who has what it takes to be the next commander-in-chief in a world of peril? The first step toward building a legacy. The Republican National Security Debate begins now.
From Constitution Hall in the nation's capital, this is the Republican Presidential Debate. Every U.S. president since Calvin Coolidge has been inside this historic hall, just steps away from the White House. Tonight, the 8 Republican candidates are here with their ultimate goal in sight. I'm Wolf Blitzer. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. Tonight's debate is airing on CNN, CNN International, CNN en Español, and the American Forces Network. We want to thank our co-sponsors, the Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute. Members of these distinguished conservative think tanks, they are here in our audience, and some of them will have a chance to question the candidates. They'll add their knowledge and insights to our discussion, making this unlike any debate so far in this presidential campaign. Viewers also can take part in our debate by sending us your questions online. On Twitter, make sure to include the hashtag CNN Debate. On Facebook, at facebook.com/CNN Politics. And of course, on CNNPolitics.com. It's time now to meet the 2012 Republican presidential contenders. Joining us on stage, the former U.S. Ambassador to China, John Huntsman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Minnesota Congresswoman, Michelle Bachmann.
Good to see you, Will.
The former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. The former president and CEO of Godfather's Pizza, Herman Cain.
Very well. Mr. Speaker.
The former Massachusetts governor, Mitt Romney.
Very well.
Texas Governor Rick Perry. Texas Congressman Ron Paul. From Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican candidates for President of the United States. Now please rise for our national anthem. Please rise, the national anthem performed by Mauricio Perez from the Tony Award-winning musical Jersey Boys, now playing at the National Theater here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Mauricio Perez, thank you. Candidates, please take to your podiums while I tell you a little bit more about how this debate will work. I'll be the moderator, and as I mentioned, our partners from the Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute will ask questions as well. I'll follow up. I'll try to guide the discussion. Candidates, I'll try to make sure each of you gets your fair share of questions. You'll have 1 minute to answer, 30 seconds for follow-ups and rebuttals. And I'll make sure you get time to respond if you're singled out for criticism. This year, more than ever, we've seen how events beyond our borders directly affect America, including perhaps the biggest national security issue right now, the economy. Candidates, tonight, Republican voters are here. They are watching around the country to decide if you have what it takes to be the next commander-in-chief, to shape foreign policy, to protect this great nation. On some of these issues, you will agree. On some, you'll disagree. But by the end of the night, voters should have a better understanding of how you would lead the nation in times of crisis. Now let's have the candidates introduce themselves to our audience, but we'll keep it very brief. Here's an example of what I'm looking for. I'm Wolf Blitzer, and yes, that's my real name. I'll be your moderator this evening, and I'm happy to welcome each one of you to our debate. Rick Santorum, let's begin with you.
Well, I am Rick Santorum, and it's great to be here, and I want to thank AEI Heritage for one constitutional responsibility of the federal government, and that is national security. And I think we can all agree that if you like what Barack Obama has done to our economy, you'll love what he's done to our national security.
I'm Ron Paul, a congressman from Texas. I am pleased to be here at the debate because this is a very important debate, but I am convinced that needless and unnecessary wars are a great detriment. They undermine our prosperity and our liberties, they add to our deficits, and they consume our welfare. We should take a careful look at our foreign policy.
I'm Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, and I want to take a moment and introduce to you the beautiful First Lady of the state of Texas, Anita. Thank you for being here with me. 29 years of wedded bliss, and 45 years ago, we had our first date. So I'm a blessed man in many ways to represent a great state, and we're here to ask you for your support, your blessings, and your vote.
I'm Mitt Romney, and yes, Wolf, that's also my first name. And I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather of 16. I love this country very much. I spent my life in the private sector. And as I've watched the direction this president has taken our country, both domestically and internationally, I'm afraid that he's taking us on a perilous course. I want to keep America strong and free. And if I'm president, I'll use every ounce of my energy to do just that.
I am businessman Herman Cain. I'm delighted to be here to discuss one of the most critical issues we face, because as a result of this administration, our national security has indeed been downgraded.
I'm Newt Gingrich. My father spent 27 years in the infantry, and as a result of that, in the fall of 1958, I decided that national survival was worth the study of a lifetime. I've worked with both Heritage and the American Enterprise Institute for over 30 years. I can't imagine any two institutions better to partner with CNN on the most important single topic, the survival of the United States.
My name is Michelle Bachmann. I'm a proud member of the United States Congress. I'm privileged to serve on the House Select Committee on Intelligence. My father honorably served in the United States Air Force, my stepfather in the United States Army, and my brother in the United States Navy. I think for every one of us who are here on this stage tonight, I think we all want to send our very best happy Thanksgiving greetings to all of our men and women in uniform who are serving us overseas, here in the United States, and also to their families. Happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate, we love you, and we want to get you home as soon as we can.
My name is John Huntsman. I believe this week in particular that there is still much to be grateful for in this, the greatest nation that ever was. I'm here with my wife of 28 years, Mary Kay, who is fortuitously sitting in the New Hampshire box up here. We are the parents of 7 kids, 2 in the United States Navy. Twice elected governor of the great state of Utah. I've lived overseas 4 times. 3 times as a United States ambassador, and I am honored and privileged to be here. Wolf, CNN, Heritage, AEI, thank you one and all for making tonight possible.
Thank you very much, and let's get right to the questions. Our leadoff question is from the Honorable Ed Meese, the former Attorney General of the United States, who's representing the Heritage Foundation.
At least 42 terrorist attacks aimed at the United States have been thwarted since 9/11. Tools like the Patriot Act have been instrumental in finding and stopping terrorists. Shouldn't we have a long-range extension of the investigative powers contained in that act so that our law enforcement officers can have the tools that they need?
Speaker Gingrich, only this weekend there was an alleged terror plot uncovered in New York City. What do you think?
Well, I think that Attorney General Meese has raised a key point, and the key distinction for the American people to recognize is the difference between national security requirements and criminal law requirements. I think it's desperately important that we preserve your right to be innocent until proven guilty if it's a matter of criminal law. But if you're trying to find somebody who may have a nuclear weapon that they're trying to bring into an American city, I think you want to use every tool that you can possibly use to gather the intelligence. The Patriot Act has clearly been a key part of that. And I think looking at it carefully and extending it and building an honest understanding that all of us will be in danger for the rest of our lives. This is not going to end in the short run, and we need to be prepared to protect ourselves from those who, if they could, would not just kill us individually, but would take out entire cities.
So, Speaker, just to clarify, you wouldn't change the Patriot Act?
No, I would not change it. I'm not aware of any specific change it needs, and I'd look at strengthening it because I think the dangers are literally that great.
Please give us your name and tell us where you're from.
Abraham Hassan from Jacksonville, Florida. How would a Republican administration help bring peace to Palestine and Israel when most candidates barely recognize the existence of Palestine or its people? As a Palestinian-American Republican, I'm here to tell you we do exist.
Let's ask Governor Romney. First of all, what would you say to Abraham?
Well, the reason that there's not peace between the Palestinians and Israel is because there is in the leadership of the Palestinian people are Hamas and others who think like Hamas, who have as their intent the elimination of Israel. And whether it's in school books that teach how to kill Jews, or whether it's in the political discourse that is spoken either from Fatah or from Hamas, there is a belief that the Jewish people do not have a right to have a Jewish state. There are some people who say, should we have a two-state solution? And the Israelis would be happy to have a two-state solution. It's the Palestinians who don't want a two-state solution. They want to eliminate the state of Israel. And I believe America must say, and the best way to have peace in the Middle East is not for us to vacillate and to appease, but is to say we stand with our friend Israel. We are committed to a Jewish state in Israel. We will not have an inch of difference between ourselves and our ally Israel. This president went before the United Nations and castigated Israel for building settlements. He said nothing about thousands of rockets being rained in on Israel from the Gaza Strip. This president threw... I think he threw Israel under the bus with regards to defining the 67 borders as the starting point of negotiations. I think he disrespected Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu. I think he has time and time again shown distance from Israel, and that has created, in my view, a greater sense of aggression on the part of the Palestinians. I will stand with our friend Israel.
Thank you, Governor. Speaker Gingrich, you got into a little hot water when you said the Palestinians were an invented people.
It was technically an invention in the late 1970s, and it was clearly so. Prior to that, they were Arabs. Many of them were either Syrian, Lebanese, or Egyptian, or Jordanian. There are a couple simple things here. There were 11 rockets fired into Israel in November. Now imagine in Duval County that 11 rockets hit from your neighbor. How many of you would be for a peace process? And how many of you would say, you know, that looks like an act of war? You have leadership unequivocally, and Governor Romney is exactly right. The leadership of Hamas says not a single Jew will remain. Well, you're not having a peace negotiation then. This is war by another form. My goal for the Palestinian people would be to live in peace, to live in prosperity, to have the dignity of a state, to have freedom, and they can achieve it any morning they are prepared to say Israel has a right to exist, we give up the right to return, and we recognize that we're going to live side by side. Now let's work together to create mutual prosperity, and you could in 5 years dramatically improve the quality of life of every Palestinian, but the political leadership would never tolerate that, and that's why we are in a continuous state of war where Obama undermines the Israelis. On the first day that I'm president, if I do become president, I will sign an executive order directing the State Department to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to send the signal with Israel.
Let's go to Miami. Let's take another question from Miami. Juan Carlos, go ahead.